All right, so the first thing I guess I get to talk about is a little recap of this weekend's football action. It felt good. I crushed my exam on Saturday, got to wake up and just enjoy a full day of football to decompress, unwind before it's back to the grind after we wrap things up here. So the first game that I wanted to talk about is the marquee matchup of that early morning slate, the Chiefs and the Dolphins. The Chiefs, of course, the juggernaut Dolphins number 2 ranked defense. And this game was everything it cracked up to be in terms of what we were expecting to see. Mahomes threw 3 interceptions, and the Dolphins got those 3, and they've also forced a fumble. So that defense was everywhere. Xavier Howard had an amazing one-handed interception to rob a potential touchdown. And the Dolphins D was really solid, and especially on that national stage, they finally got to show it off because I don't think a lot of fans had seen how good their defense had been this season. But in the end, the Chiefs, they're inevitable. Thanos, they have all the Infinity Stones. It's just, if you leave them for a second, they score a touchdown and then they force a 3-and-out. They get a punt return for a touchdown, and all just like that, they can just strike and take the lead from you. We saw it all throughout the playoffs last year as they made their way to the Super Bowl, and they just continue to do it. So in the end, they won 33-27. Miami, the biggest thing here was that Tua gave up a safety early in the second half. And if he hadn't done that, then they might have been closer into this game, and maybe it would have come down to a last second field goal for either team. But just he made a couple rookie mistakes, and that was kind of the deciding factor in this one. The next game talk about is the other marquee early slate game, the Minnesota Vikings Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers pulled this one out 26-14. I would have liked to seen a little bit more from their offense. Actually, it felt like they still weren't clicking 100%. Brady missed a couple guys, but they did. Their defense stood up for them and made some stops, and they did what they needed to do. And Brady is still very successful coming out of bye weeks, and that game kind of went how everyone expected it was going to go. And then the big implication from this game is now the Vikings, who had just crept into that last wildcard spot, fall out, and the Cardinals, who beat the Giants today, jump back into that 7th spot. So just some playoff movement there. The first afternoon game I want to talk about is the Los Angeles Chargers, the Atlanta Falcons, and these teams are an absolute meme. They're made for each other. It was the battle of who could blow the game the most in the fourth quarter, as these teams have been famous for doing so this season. And it was spectacular. Chargers have the ball with a minute left. Justin Herbert drops back, gets intercepted, and the Falcons is a tie game at this point. And the Falcons get the ball. They're all excited. About 4 plays later, Matt Ryan throws an interception right back to the Chargers, and they get the ball. And then the Chargers complete a deep pass and end up kicking the game-winning field goal. So it was a little back and forth. You take the game. No, you take it.
Speaking of absolute chaos, did you see that ridiculous rugby play that happened in one of the football games this past weekend?
No, which?
Oh man, my dad showed it to me. I want to say it was Western Michigan versus someone, but it was fourth
Yeah.
quarter, end of the game, like 0 seconds on the clock, or close enough to 0. They snap it back. They're looking for some sort of trick play. They start lateraling it, but none of the receivers can get open for the toss, and the defense just keeps hounding them. But the clock has like gotten to 0, so they keep forcing them back. They keep forcing them back. I assume it's the defensive team with the lead, and they're like almost at safety range. And I think the guy slips or something because the team starts running onto the field to celebrate winning the game, but he hasn't actually gone down. So a flag goes up, but he hasn't gone down. They don't blow the play dead, and the guy runs through the crowd, gets the touchdown, and they win the fucking game.
And so I think what ended up happening, and it was brutal, that team that scored the touchdown, I think it should have counted, but the flag was an illegal forward pass.
Oh
So
no.
they lost. But I didn't, when I watched that back, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, it was Western Michigan and I believe Ball State University were playing. And Yeah, that touchdown would have won the game. And I think the ref, because the guy fumbled and everyone thought they had recovered it, but the ball squeaked out and it was still live and the refs had never blown it dead. And yeah, I didn't see an illegal forward pass. So that's got to absolutely, like, that's brutal. If you're Western Michigan, you'd be so upset.
Oh my God, that was one of the craziest things I've seen all year. I was sitting on it, but then you said absolute chaos and it popped right back out. Sorry.
No, it's a perfect tangent. I forgot about that. That was craziness. Okay, I'll jump back into the recap. Jalen Hurts, who was a college quarterback last year for Oklahoma, won his first career NFL start replacing Carson Wentz, and he did some decent stuff. He was running a lot. He had a couple nice throws, but he really sparked that Philadelphia team, and they came out with a ton of energy against the number 1 seeded New Orleans Saints. And so now the Saints dropped to 10-3, and that really opens up the door. I think the Packers are now the 1 seed in the NFC also at 10-3. So it's just some interesting that this 1 seed is so important because it's the only bye for the playoffs. So the NFC playoff picture gets a little bit fuzzier in terms of who's going to be at the top of the table by the time this season's over. And then the last game Sunday to recap is Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills. Everyone was super excited for this game. I was excited, but I also knew the game was going to be a little bit of a defensive slugfest, just given the prestige of the Steelers defense and then the Buffalo Bills defense matching up well against what the Steelers like to do, which is pass short and not run the ball a whole lot. And the Bills were all over it. And the first quarter was pretty tight. I think it was 7-3 Pittsburgh, or the first half, pardon me. And then Ben Roethlisberger threw a pick six, and I think that completely swung the momentum of the game because after that, Buffalo ended up scoring 23 points unanswered. And by the time Pittsburgh was finally getting back in the game, the second half was basically them trading punts, and the Bills ended up winning 26-15. So if you're a Steelers fan, you have to be a little bit scared now because this team that had been undefeated now have dropped 2 in a row. Their defense is banged up. You don't really trust their offense to convert in 4th down or 3rd down situations, and they rely a lot on a big play from one of the receivers who also are been dropping the ball a lot recently. So you just got to be a little bit wary if you're a Steelers fan going forward that this team might not be as strong as they had come out of the gates.
When's their next game?
I believe it's next Sunday, and I think they're playing the Browns, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. I'm wondering about the rest.
Oh no, they play they play the Bengals on next Monday. So they'll get an extra day of rest, which will be really big for them. But they have 2 big defensive pieces, Devin Bush and Bud Dupree, who I think are done for the season, which really affects their defense moving forward. Yeah, so they have the Bengals, which should be a win for them, and then the Colts and the Browns to finish the season, and they'll probably beat the Browns. But the Colts will be an interesting game because, again, that's another defense that matches up well against their offense. So it's just how much pressure they're going to put on that defense down the stretch.
If you're a coach or a fan, you're almost grateful for that in a way because you'd rather solve that problem pre-playoff than in the playoff. But
exactly, yeah. It's just now the Chiefs are in the driver's seat for that 1 seed, and I think Pittsburgh really, really needs that 1 seed. So it'll be tough for them to kind of, whatever matchup they get in that first round will be interesting because the AFC playoff picture, as it stands now, you've got Miami, the Colts, and then the Browns in those wild card seeds, and all those teams aren't on that same level as like a Steelers or a Chiefs, but they're all solid teams with good defenses that'll be tough to get out when it comes playoff time. But those teams are built for the playoffs in terms of defense and then being safe with the ball and not turning it over. So those teams will be tough no matter which one the Steelers get in the playoffs. So I think they would have rather had that 1 seed for the bye.
Of course.
Yeah. And then if you're a Bills fan, you're ecstatic. This is their first home win against Pittsburgh since 1999.
Wow.
And they're on their way to winning the AFC East, which they haven't done in 20 years. And they are just an exciting team. And I wish there could be fans in the stands, because Bills Mafia would be absolutely crazy right now, jumping through tables and lighting things on fire. So it's a bummer that we don't get to see that. But this Bills team is fun, and obviously they're our closest geographic team. So it'd be nice to see them having some success, as there's a lot of fans here in Canada. And so that kind of wraps up my standout games. Fantasy performer, I'm sorry, I messed up again. Dalton Schultz only put up 5 points against the Bengals. I thought he was going to get a touchdown. The Cowboys ended up blowing them out. He just didn't get enough targets. So trust the process, maybe not the result. On the other hand,
How'd that work out for your specific fantasy league?
I got bailed out because the guy I was going up against the last place guy in my league this week to get in. So I ended up just squeaking it out. I think we both scored under 100 points this week, but I managed to
squeak. Clinching your spot.
Thanks. Should be interesting next week to see. I got to pick up a different defense. The Giants defense screwed me. Handing out my top fantasy performer of the weekend. I mean, so far it's been like Derrick Henry 3 of the 4 times, right? And he put up 36 points today. But I think because he is just so common and expected, I'm going to hand it out to Colts running back Jonathan Taylor this week, who put up 29 and a half points. He had 2 touchdowns, and he was running the ball really well. And he was their first round draft pick this year. And they had been waiting for him to have a breakout game like this, and he finally had one. So hats off to him and the Colts, who had a big win against the Raiders and kind of solidified their hold on a playoff spot in the AFC. That pretty much wraps up the NFL for this weekend. We'll be excited to watch Baltimore and Cleveland tonight. And we'll take a quick break and come back for some Combat Corner.